are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Every day, every moment is a repeated reminder there are no coincidences. And my bits and pieces of what we will be sharing today, perfect alignment with this hymn. So, I've not heard this before, but it was ever so speaking as I was just going through the words. But there are no coincidences here. I'm just going to pick out something before we really get into the conversation. But the reminder is, as we speak here, present what I have to present. I know I work with inspiration, I'm guided, so these words are for all of us, not just for you. So we'll discover that. Thus, we said this word, every little creature, a unit of it all. And just giving a little precept, I always have a camera with me, and lately I've been enjoying tiny critters photography, macro photography. And what I'm realizing is there's so much detail in that little thing. Got a little tiny fly, and it has colors, it has designs, it has prints, and every little bit is different. And part of my expansion is I'm in the moment doing what I'm doing, but also at the same time I'm realizing we are not just it, there's so much more here. And even the little flies and little fruit flies, there are like hundreds of them. Whatever the way they're mutating, it's there. And then the last sentence of the song is, for we may know this great plan is God's way. And it is good. A lot of times we put up a fight in understanding what our purpose and plan is. And in 2003, I asked this question, my very first few readings, I was asking, what is my purpose? And the medium said, who said you are supposed to have a purpose? Not always you will have a purpose. Sometimes being present in the journey or in this experience is a purpose in its own self. Right? A lot of times our purpose are met and fulfilled, and we've given what was our purpose, but the life continues. That doesn't mean we have to replenish the purpose after purpose. At some point when we understand that one purpose completes our soul's expansion for what it's valued for, maybe there is not supposed to be a purpose. Maybe that is the bonus or the icing on the cake. Saying is, this is now the time to focus on me, because the purpose took every bit of us in that direction of care and loving and nurturing that experience. But beyond that point, we have to be present with ourselves. And most of the time we will realize these purposes are never come with a joyous connection, right? Everybody's having a handy-dandy time. That doesn't qualify as a purpose. Most of us see our purpose through the challenges we face, right? And those challenges are ripping us apart internally, and we have to stay put in the situation to commit to that, and we're giving constantly. That's how we relate the purpose. But there's also purpose in being present with our own journey, in our own self. And that alone can be a fulfillment in a way of saying that is the purpose now, to enjoy from the fullness of life, rather than looking for what is not perfect. Nothing is. Nothing is. And in my observation, I also had an astrological guru many years ago that really took me under his wings, and he taught me everything he knew, and everything was very practical. It was not book, it was not really theoretical, it was very experiential. And he told me his story that he was going through his own tests and fights in his life, and he one day got upset with God of his choice, and he said, you know, if I'm your imprint, you'll have to take care of me, and I'm going to sit here. And when he said that, he just did not move from that one seat day on after end. So he had his spiritual practice, he would study astrology, he would practice astrology. He never left his home, he never left that box. He did his routines, he did his life, he managed his family, he never left. And his fight with the divine was, you will take care of me and everything that is connected with me. But he stayed present in that commitment that he made, whatever it was. And he got successful just sitting in one place. He was very well known throughout the country. He was known for his practice, he was known for his abilities, he was known for his healing that he offered in his own practices. He stood his ground, he placed himself in the conviction this is how it's supposed to be. And he didn't move. And very totally contrasting, there's a Lionia Preserve in Deltona where I live close by. It's a 10-minute drive. And it's a preservation ground for blue jays and scrub jays. They need that habitat to survive and everything. So I've been visiting there, and I have come to learn there's this one green lynx spider that stays on the same sunflower plant now for almost 3 weeks. And I'm just, as I'm telling the story about my teacher, in my mind is going like, so I've seen that spider go from this big to this big. It's growing, it's extending, it's an inch long, body is inch long. But my sense is, should we believe in our abilities, believe that we are extension of the infinite? Perhaps we don't have to flail our hands to accomplish things that we are supposed to be accomplishing. Taking those joys and those tiny accomplishments, little tiny ahas, can give us the fullness and perhaps the perception and gratification that we are living a fulfilled life. One of my other beloved teachers, pseudo-teachers by observation, is Dr. Wayne Dyer. And he took a time of his life to go through the Taoist teaching. And as I was sitting here listening to the first hymn, I was just going through his one teaching. Be connected with everything and be attached to nothing. And I'm paraphrasing his saying. And once again, the part of that is, even though I am present in this moment of conversation with you, I'm open in a sense of expansion that I have to be perceptive of everything. But at the same time, am I attached to everything? No, everything is a practice from my scope of life. Anything we say becomes very important. So thinking in terms of your duties and responsibilities, because we all have some capacity of that. And sometimes we are so restless that we create those responsibilities. And I'm using this very amusingly. I did not have any need for a new vehicle, but I just created that responsibility for myself. So my pseudo-perceived purpose is not to take care of that, whatever that is. I did not have, but a part of that is we feel out of sync when we don't have something to be responsible for. And then we create. And the mind creates that absence of that, and then we don't pay attention what the vibrational spaces stimulate those experiences. So I'm just going to say that, and it started this conversation with a sense of humor, sunshine, hope, and joy, and everything is there. And humor is a big part of me. I cannot avoid it, it cannot avoid me. It just goes hand in hand. So when I took care of this car, all I had to tell to this car salesman is, I've already sold this car to myself, you just do the paperwork.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how easy his work was?
Yeah.
I sold myself everything, all the features, everything. I knew everything about the car. So he just did the paperwork, and I was out in like 45 minutes. But my sense is, it's not that what I wanted, but I convinced myself of something that was there. And how often you have convinced yourself of a certain perceived situation, present or not present. Especially when it's not present, then when we are convinced of its presence, the laws of the universe and vibratory law says now we will have to match this because it's a convinced place. So if our mind is looking for something that's not right constantly, there will be something that will show up that is not right, and then we'll have to deal with it. That leads me to another wonderful writer, Don McGill-Ruiz, the Four Agreements book. If you have not read it, the book is in the bookstore if you would like to get it. Page number 34, 35, 36. And so precisely because we are not here to go into all the agreements, we all know those agreements. You do it on a daily basis, he has just stated in a simple manner. But page 34, 35, 36 is an exemplifying what I was saying is, when we create words, when we give words to our feelings and emotions, we create this vibratory entrapment for ourselves. And that becomes a fulfillment. Then you have to work through it. Is there. So it's hard to separate sometimes judgment from discernment from an observation. We don't know how that fine line is defined within everything or anything. And we are doing that on a constant basis. But in those 3 pages, the way he's telling or building the story to get into the 4 agreements is saying is we create words, and the words are very spellbinding for our own good. So any negative belief system, any negative thought process, internally the word is still vibrating within our existence, and perhaps you need to take a little moment to even identify how often we have said something about me is not right, or something about me doesn't work the way it should be working. Is there? So I'm embracing my wonderful expansion in my physical body, because I look at it sometimes at a lack of not having the right body and the right composition. But guess what? Every morning my blood saturation is fine, everything is working fine. I have flexibility, I have strength, I have stability, stamina to go through my entire day without pausing. So learning to be graceful in that place is like, it is what it is, it's showing what it's showing. But at the same time, the appreciation of recognizing how often I speak, how often we speak to ourselves in a manner that is unkind, let alone to be able to pass it on to somebody else. That's a big responsibility, and we don't realize that because we are going so fast-paced in that space. So sitting in the back chair as the healing was going on for the few moments is there. My sense was, what part of our spiritual journey we don't realize that we are seers unto ourselves. Right? We are seers unto ourselves. But we have to realize it is the layers of the mind that we have to navigate to get into the spaces where that true seership stands for us. Right? Because the immediate layers are laced with too many things, too many life experiences, failures, successes, calculativeness, whatever you might want to call it. But as we progress in this higher vibrational layers of our own existence, our own higher consciousness, we find ourselves, things are not as wound up and tight as we feel them to be. There's a lot of spaces that are vacant. And the vacant means the board is plain as it gets. So that seership in that layer takes us into that part of seeing and perceiving things beyond our palpable awareness. And to get there, you have to just go through the layers. Even when we are flying, the flights have to take a wind pattern to make it a successful, easy flight, or shorten the distance, or cut short the weather. They'll have to adapt to it. But at the same time, to get from one point to the other, the journey or the pathway is layered. It has steps and processes to go through. So if we are not attached to anything that is happening to our present lives in today's time, especially things that are not working out, because what is working out, what you're experiencing, is right there in our experiences. But things that we tell ourselves, they're not working out, things didn't work out, and we catch ourselves in that, in a sense that it doesn't allow us the freedom to move back and forth in our own awareness. If we disconnect from it, we become detached with it. Think about it. It opens up a space, a possibility to move into something different. Maybe another part of our existence that once again we land, we arrive there, and then we say, maybe I need to recalibrate here. Then we open up that space, and then we move into the freedom spaces. So ultimately, as we become attached and non-judgmental about our own processes, perhaps we will launch ourselves into that little free zone where we have that ability to not have a pressure and obligation to create or be producing something. So we have to be in that little free suspended state. In our mediumistic spiritualist journey, it might be called light trance or trance in some capacity. But seership is, I feel, a little beyond that point. because it has to be in the neutral zone where there is no sense of attachment of an outcome, demand on things to be fulfilled. Because if that was the case, just about all the prophecies would have been true to this day. But some are still happening, so we cannot say they will not happen. But once again, the seership, or that ability to put things out there, usually doesn't come with a linear time. It doesn't come with a straight line of time. And that, I feel, most of the practitioners that are working this work of mediumship or psychic work in your capacity would understand. We do give a human timeline to discern things, but it has a movement of its own. It goes where it needs to go. Some things are right on the money, some things are happening in a different year on the same date and time that was said. But a part of that awareness is that seership happens in a neutral space, where I'm not worried about my worthiness or my prediction or my said word, and I'm completely disconnected with it. It's just flowing through me at that time. Is there. But a part of our spiritualist journey has a lot of emphaticness in this growth and development part of the process. Mediumship, psychic abilities, our faculties of healing, our ability to listen and see and sense things. But beyond all this is something much bigger. Trance, or being in the little altered state of awareness where we are allowing other entities and spirit bodies to work through our medium, our conduit of a channel of communication. But then there's this other part where the mind is in a seeing space. We see and perceive things without a sense of attachment. So, I do not know how well it fits this example, but I somewhere has a little compass, and this is not about me, but I'm just trying to highlight a point here. There's somewhere a compass. I know when the weather is going to change. I always have it. I was always fussing with my mom. Storm's coming. I can smell it. And she would say, where is it? There's nothing. There's nobody said it on the radio. There's nothing happening. And in India we had dust storms because sometimes everything was so landlocked. The rain was not in the horizon, but dust definitely was. And I would say there's, and it would be within a matter of minutes, something's blowing through the windows and balcony and veranda, and she would be like, how did you know that? I don't know. And I think we've all done this in some capacity. We don't know, but sometimes we know. And when you know, you know. And then a part of that is, are we giving a little bit of nudge, a little bit power is saying, like, now we'll sit and wait and watch how this is going to turn out. Sometimes when we're in a little space of the outcome or how it's going to be going, we may be cutting short our experience. So patience, again, cannot be defined if it's a 5-minute patient or the 5-year patient. When you have to be patient, you have to be patient. There is no definition of how long that means. So my fuss with my mom continued over many years. Yesterday, I went for dinner. The weather was just great, but the rain was not happening. And as I was just turning the lane into my driveway, I'm like, oh, there it is. And just the sky fell open. And I was like, okay, I still continue to have something with it. And I do not know where that compass is. I still haven't figured it out. I can't even say to my body. Somewhere it's there sometimes. So the other part of what this speaks to is sometimes we are so close to a need, a want, or hope, or a sense of potential that we're wanting to experience that we completely miss out the point. And in a matter of, as a professional working as a medium or as an intuitive person, that if you were practicing, you would understand. A lot of times the person sitting across from you is so close to their circumstance and situation, they're absolutely missing the point. And I, with my nature, sometimes have the potential of feeling gently frustrated enough to break my own link with what's going on up here. So I'm learning, over many years, I'm learning to manage that as well, because I'm observing something on a human level, but I cannot drop this space that I'm in for that person at that time. And I'm saying this to you because you also have that space. Sometimes if you feel things are not going where they are, maybe the first point of assessment is, am I too close to it? Am I too close to the expectation or the hope of an outcome there? Maybe I need to just inch back enough to feel that little catalytic process that is happening, spiritually speaking. And my observation has been, if I choose to break that link, then I'll have to restart everything all over again, or we'll have to say goodbye for another day. So I'm understanding my lack or my own strengths and weaknesses in this process. But at the same time, I do understand sometimes, most of the time, just about all the time, my job is to deliver, not worry about how it's going to happen or where it's going to fit. And that part falls into this gentleness of this trans-seership, because when you're in that space, you're in that space. Now, why do we talk about this? You all are living in the present moment and are also living in the future at the same time. We are always arriving and departing at some point of existence, every moment of our lives. Anything is an end point, is a beginning of something new. And whatever is ending started somewhere, which shows us where the other ending point was. So we're always constantly in that space. But at the same time, if you are living with an expanded sense that this is the purpose, just like this hymn said, this is where I'm supposed to be, everything else will feel so little and benign that it will never get too big for any one of us. I hold my own responsibility in my journey when I've made things bigger than what they were. And then I don't have anywhere to go and complain, but to just be in my presence saying, I messed it up. And that's another reality, is I'm not any superhuman being, I'm still the physical joy that I am. So that's, the reality check is there, but at the same time, part of sense is we have the seership in ourselves, for our own good. Learn to access that for yourself. Learn to navigate the first few layers that are human limitedness that we experience. Try to push beyond that space. And when I say push, means just go through that. You cannot do anything physical or otherwise to push through it. Just keep moving into it one or after the other. And it will lead you in that space. Is there. So parachute comes from the air down, but the hot air balloon goes from the earth to the sky. Whichever one you see, however you want to approach it. You can head to your seership, or you can take off to the seership part of your life. You can use either of the analogy if you have to navigate. Pick one and say, I'm getting close to where I need to be, or I'm rising to where I need to be. Find your way that works for you. And that's a part of what my spiritualist journey said. There are many teachers I've studied over so many years, but I had to figure out my language with my work. That nobody has been able to provide me. I had to sort it out myself. I had to sort out my own processes. I had to learn to be alert and oriented and awake in my own existence. The spiritualism, once again, I repeat it every time I'm speaking. It's a very self-aware religion. It's a very self-aware process of belief system. It will take you to the core of you if you choose to. And that's a beauty in itself. So with that being said, I hope you all understand, each and everybody sitting in this room, and anybody that you know out there, we all have the equal potential. And then beyond that point is our ability to define what it looks like. So give yourself a break from your own spellbinding words. Don't tell yourself or say anything to yourself that is anything less than that you would not accept from anywhere else. So why do you do it to yourself? Release yourself to your own greatness and trust that it will manifest in the best way possible. Thank you for being here.